If you are like me and into sci-fi, then you've probably seen the latest trailer for Rebel Moon, which was released at Gamescom, and like me, your first thought was probably damn! Followed by, what is this? It isn't an IP I'd heard of before because, well, it's brand new. So let's check out what the film's about. Rebel Moon is the brainchild of Zack Snyder, whose work I'm sure everyone is already familiar with. If you're getting Star Wars vibes when viewing the trailer, then you aren't far off the origin of this film. As a lifelong Star Wars fan, Snyder had originally pitched Rebel Moon as a more mature take on the Lucas universe. However, with Disney acquiring Lucasfilm in 2012 and what followed, the plan was scuppered. Instead, Snyder teamed up with Netflix and Rebel Moon was reworked into its own IP. So what's the story about? The plot centres round a peaceful colony on the moon of Velt, which is at the edge of the galaxy. It finds itself threatened by the armies of a tyrannical ruling force called the Imperium. I imagine they'll be a bit like the Empire in Star Wars. Cora, a former member of the Imperium, seeks redemption for her past and is living amongst the villagers on Velt. She becomes their best hope for survival when the Imperium arrives. She sets off to find trained fighters who will unite with her in making an impossible stand against the mother world. Cora assembles a small band of warriors made up of outsiders, insurgents, peasants and orphans of war from different worlds who share a common need for redemption and revenge. As the shadow of an entire realm bears down on the unlikeliest of moons, a battle over the fate of the galaxy is waged, and in the process a new army of heroes is formed. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but I was getting serious Star Wars original trilogy vibes when going through the synopsis, which is part of the reason why I'm cautiously optimistic for Rebel Moon. With Disney's recent treatment of the Star Wars IP, I've been longing for something to scratch that itch. So hopefully Rebel Moon can fill that void. When discussing the film, Snyder has elaborated on the inspirations, which only intrigued me more. Firstly is Akira Kurosawa, who was the filmmaker behind Seven Samurai, which Snyder even stated was a direct inspiration for Rebel Moon. For those that don't know what Seven Samurai is, it's a movie about essentially 7 heroes who defend a village from bandits, and that is a very compressed explanation. I highly recommend checking out the movie if you haven't already. Star Wars, another inspiration for Rebel Moon, draws from Seven Samurai 2. What we can probably deduce from this is that the story will be a classic good versus evil. Finally, Zack has said he drew inspiration as well from the Heavy Metal magazine, which is famous for its blend of dark fantasy, science fiction and steampunk, so I'm guessing these themes will be utilised in the film too. Rebel Moon is being split into 2 releases. Part 1, titled A Child of Fire, will release on Netflix just before Christmas on the 22nd of December 2023. Part 2 is called The Scargiver and will release on the 19th of April 2024. The film was originally meant to be one movie, but the script was about 172 pages. For those unaware, Netflix generally favours films under 2 hours long, as they tend to do better in Netflix's eyes. Zack didn't want to shorten the film as he felt we, the audience, would lose the character development and thus not care for the protagonists. The compromise was therefore to split the film into 2. What is more interesting to me is that there will be 2 cuts of the film as well. The initial launch will be a PG-13 rated release intended for all audiences. However, a longer R-rated version will also be released after, intended strictly for adults. This certainly intrigues me, as I nearly always find the director's cut is the better movie. For instance, look at Kingdom of Heaven, Justice League the Snyder Cut, or the Lord of the Rings extended editions. So what about the cast? For this part I'll focus on the well-known actors and actresses that I'm personally excited about to see on screen. The main protagonist, Cora, is played by Sofia Boutella. She was the crazy chick with blades for legs in Kingsman, or you might have seen her in SAS Rogue Heroes as the French spy. In Rebel Moon, Cora is a former member of the Imperium and knows exactly what is about to happen when the Imperium rocks up on Velt. I'm hoping she has a level of complexity beyond just a strong female character. Certainly exploring why she left the Imperium opens up intriguing avenues and potentially adds depth to her character. According to Netflix, she will have the fate of the galaxy in her hands. Next up is Jaimin Honsu, who has played the wizard Shazam in the DC universe and probably is best known for his role, and what I absolutely loved him in was Gladiator. And funnily enough, in Rebel Moon he is portraying a gladiator again called General Titus. His character was an Imperium general that has become disillusioned and now lives a sad life fighting in the Colosseum. I expect he will form part of Cora's team. Another cast member that I'm excited to see is Charlie Hunnam. I'm sure everyone already knows him from Sons of Anarchy, and I really liked him in The Gentleman. He will be playing the role of Kai, a mercenary pilot, which I imagine will be an important thing to have if Cora wants to gather a resistance group from more than one planet. I believe the setting for Rebel Moon is similar to the Outer Rim setting in Star Wars, where parts are at a premium and our heroes will have to use whatever scrap they can find. This is pure speculation on my part, but I imagine Kai will be the Han Solo of the setting. Probably my favourite casting is Anthony Hopkins. I do hope everyone knows who he is, and not just for Odin. If you don't, go check out Silence of the Lambs. He'll be portraying a centuries-old robot named Jimmy that was once an ancient robot knight who defended a slaying king. His character now lives a far more peaceful existence. There seems to be a lot that we can explore with this character, so I'm potentially intrigued to see where they take him. And what about the villains of the setting? Ed Skrein is the one I'm most intrigued to see. He's played villains before in both Alita Battle Angel, and who can forget Francis from Deadpool. He plays the character of Admiral Atticus Noble, the right-hand man to the Regent Belisarius. Described as a sociopath with unwavering loyalty to the mother world, he will do whatever it takes to accomplish his goals, however cruel. I don't see him having any redeeming arc in this, and will be a straight-up villain for the heroes to fight against, in my opinion. Having watched the trailer, I can say I'm cautiously optimistic. Why do I use the term cautiously? Well, it isn't because of the story, the director or the cast, all of which look great so far. It is purely down to Netflix being attached. They bring a corporate mentality to entertainment which too often takes away from the authenticity in my opinion. I just hope Snyder and his team can retain creative control on this project, as I've been all too often disappointed with Netflix productions. Certainly early sounds from the set are promising. The filmmakers created several distinct languages for the film along with their own alphabets. Across production, design, props, costumes and more, the crew have generated currency, musical instruments, religious iconography and origin stories from scratch. This will hopefully all add to the universe and add that layer of authenticity and believability in the setting that I feel has been missing from certain recent films and TV series. Only time will tell, and we are certainly in the early days of this IP. If it is good, hopefully it gives Disney the kick up the arse with Star Wars to up their game, and if not, we might get an original IP that's good to watch. Let me know down in the comments if you're excited for Rebel Moon. And that's a wrap folks, time for you to go on your merry way.